Welcome to Healing and Made Free with Janet Boynes Ministries. Thank you for listening. Janet will be talking about her struggle with addiction, alcohol, drugs, eating disorders, unwanted same-sex attraction, and living a homosexual life. Janet has survived all those things by the grace of God. Janet's not a doctor, she's not a therapist, she's not a psychotherapist, she's not a licensed counselor. Janet is an ordained pastor and wants to show you God's promises, how God has set her free, and how you can be set free. What He has done for her, He will do it for you. If healing and freedom are what you want, you have come to the right place at the right time. Let's get started. Here is Janet Boynes.
I'm excited for this next guest. But before I go into that, everybody knows that homosexuality is one of the number one issues we're dealing with in America. However, the body of Christ worldwide has been challenged to deal with this issue. We know pastors and ministry leaders have a hard time inviting those of us that come out of the life of homosexuality into their church out of fear. But here at Janet Boynes Ministries, we work with pastors and ministry leaders and families that have loved ones that are dealing with homosexuality so we can educate them on how to deal with this hard issue. We also help men and women that struggle with homosexuality leave the life and, by the grace of God, never return. I have a special guest on today, Daniel Ferrer, with his dad, Kandel. Welcome to Healing and Made Free with Janet Boynes.
Thank you, Miss Janet, for having us. It's a great honor and a great pleasure to be here with you.
Daniel, I want to tell our audience how we met. We met a few months ago in Atlanta. You were there with your foundation, Patriot Kids, with your parents. Is that correct?
Yes, at a night of faith with Blexit.
Night of Faith with Blexit. And after you and I were talking, I thought, I got to have this young man on my podcast. And I have your father with you because you are a minor. How old are you?
I'm 13 years old.
You're 13 and you are crossing the country, sharing your faith and sharing what God is doing in your life and how the Lord is enlarging your territory, even by just having this podcast with me, with your foundation. However, before we go into that, I mentioned to you that I want to talk about the issue of homosexuality because I think it's so important with millennials and Gen Zs, how this is impacting your culture. Dad, are you okay with me talking with your son about this issue?
Yes.
Thank you, Kandel. I appreciate that. Let me see. Daniel, in today's world, how does homosexuality impact your generation?
Miss Boynes, something that really one of the things most affects of all of it is what we've seen. How homosexuality, the LGBTQ community has gone into our schools, has gone into our education. Schools have now taken the role of parents, and parents have well, our schools, they should educate our children. But there's one thing that I believe that is very important, and that is when it comes to values, when it comes to morals, when it comes to principles, when it comes to those things that are so important in one's life. I think that is the role of parents. That is not the role of schools or any community or any government. That is the role of the family to educate their children, that be about how they feel. If that children has any problem, they can talk to their parents, and their parents should be the ones who are talking to the counselors, to the personnel who is there to help them. But that first contact should be with the parents, not with the school helper, not with the school teacher, not with the counselor. It should be with the parents. And not just homosexuality, but the whole LGBTQ community. Um, Something that it's really important to say, I have nothing against the LGBTQ community. They are people who are over 18, who believe whatever they want to believe, who think however they want to think. And especially if they are over to 18, as I'm saying, they can, yes, I want to be how I want to be. But don't go around young children who don't even think correctly yet, who haven't learned what 2 plus 2 is yet, and they're already learning. I want to be, I want to be a girl when I was born biologically a boy, and or vice versa. So there's these things that is just super important that once you look at it, it's just something that's completely wrong. It's something that when you look at it, you're like, why is a kid who, first of all, if a kid can't drive, can't drink, can't smoke, can't take decisions for himself, why is it that he can take decisions if he wants to be a girl or a boy? That's
Wow.
something that I just completely don't understand.
Wow. Dad and mom, I know mom's in the background. You've raised your child well. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
thank
instilled that in him or he picked that up on his own. Dad, is that something that you instilled in Daniel about this issue of homosexuality? Because as a family, I'm sure you've talked about it.
yeah, but we don't push him to you know ¿cómo se dice? Como to
To talk about this type of things, or like
no, because we understand like a family, our
values.
values is not it's not from this way. It's we ¿cómo se dice creer?
We believe.
We believe in the family, and the family is is the place, all these things you need to talk inside the you home,
Yeah.
not outside you home.
I believe that, families are so imperative in this day and age. A child should have a father and a mother. And it's really great to see how you and your wife are standing by Daniel as God continues to raise him up to be the godly man he has called him to be. I believe our steps are ordered by the Lord, and this day is not a coincidence. I believe that your ministry that God has called you to is going to help so many people around the country. However, Daniel, I believe it's so important that millennials and Gen Zs hear your voice and what you believe in, because a lot of times uh, kids think that their parents are coaching them into believing, what they believe about homosexuality. But I know someday you want to get married and someday you want to have kids and you want your children to realize that as the head of your home, you're going to serve God with your whole heart. You're going to love your wife as Christ loved the church, and you're going to support your children. Is that the case?
Yes, exactly, exactly. I even though we believe in traditional family and the way God created, man, women, and traditional marriage, um, I do believe that there are people who may feel different, who may think different, and I'm completely open to that.
Mhm.
I'm open that you may think different. That's why we live in a country like we live, the United States of America, where everyone can believe however they want. Not like in Cuba, where Che Guevara put more than 10,000 people in prison because of just being homosexual, and that's just 10,000 people in Cuba. And I don't know if you know the term gulag, which were prisons that were created by the Soviet Union in Russia, that were concentration camps. And so they can refer to those types of prisons as gulags. Che Guevara actually referred to those prisons he created as a gulag for homosexual people in Cuba.
Well, that's pretty sad. People can do whatever they want to do. If God wanted us to be robots, he would have made us robots.
Yep.
God wants us to serve him because we want to, not because we have to. The Bible talks about in Jeremiah 1:5 that I ordained you in the womb. Your parents
Yeah.
did not know or did not determine if you were going to be a male or female. God
No.
made you the man that you are today, and God made your father and your mother the male and female that he made them today. Our parents, all of our parents had nothing to do with if we were going to come out as a boy or a girl.
Yeah,
Otherwise, in today's 21st century, they wouldn't have gender reveals. And so
Exactly.
they have gender reveals because they don't know what the sex is going to be. But if they did know, they would not sit and have those type of parties to find out if God had blessed them with a boy or a girl. And that's why I think it's so crazy when people are confused about, our identity when our identity is in Christ, and that they believe something that the world told them that they could be when it's a lie. When the Bible says in Romans that a man shall never sleep with another man as he does with a woman. Daniel, do you go to school or are you homeschooled?
I do online school, which I do it at my own pace. It's a school called Matter Virtual Academy, and so I just do it at my own pace. I earned a scholarship at that school, and I'm now in 8th grade and starting high school next year.
That is so amazing. So, do you have friends that are in the school district?
Not really. Since it's a school where I do it at my own pace, I only talk with teachers where when necessary for grades or for any questions I have. So yeah, there's zero to none communication with other students. There is communication I do have as I am vice president of National Honor Society in my school, and so we do get together every Friday. As today, actually, we have a meeting.
So, you get together, do you get together with the teachers or do you get together with the other students that are a part of this homeschool group?
I do it with we do it with other students and one teacher, and so it's just National Honor Society, and we do fundraising and can drives and all those great stuff that teachers to be better leaders for tomorrow.
Well, I am so excited to talk about the foundation that you started, possibly along with your parents. They're with you. And so it becomes a part of them because your parents are one in Christ, but you are under that umbrella. You have a foundation called Patriot Kids. What is Patriot Kids?
Patriot Kids Foundation, what we do is not only teach, but actually inspire kids and young people in America. And not only kids and young people, but also family. We teach the family and the kids about why America is exceptional. We teach them about the original intent. Sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you. We teach them about the original intent of our founding fathers, that everything they did for our great nation in 1776. And one of the most important things of all is what they put on the line for our country. And especially how it says at the end of the Declaration of Independence, how they put their lives, fortunes, and sacred honors for this great nation on the line. And they signed what was considered a death will, just literally, because they were signing something that they knew that if they were captured, they were going to be killed. And all the generation was too. So we teach them the bravery of what our founding fathers really did for this great nation, and what this great nation really means.
So, what you're sharing with the young adults thus far, how are they receiving this?
We do this through various projects that we're doing. Some are monthly, some are quarterly, depending on how important it is, how much resources we can get to accomplish these projects. And usually we do it through activities, through sometimes also through social media. We do it through things that kids enjoy the most, which is fun, games, music, joy, and technology. We have a lot of things that that you can't find in a normal school place, because it when you look at history class, a lot of people say, well, history is boring. It's completely boring. But the thing is that they can't they can't find something that is good to learn, and they can't learn it completely and put it in their hearts if it's not fun. And if it doesn't include games, joy, music, all this great stuff that when you attach it, we've done the experiments, and when you attach all these great stuff that kids love learning and that kids do all day, they're going to learn super much faster than if you just give them a whole lecture about how Thomas Jefferson created the Declaration of Independence, how Benjamin Rush was a founder of public schools under the Constitution. So there's a lot of things that when you start talking to them and you add joy to it, and you add a lot of activities to it, they're going to love it, and they really do. They enjoy it.
That is amazing. You are considered what the world will call a Gen Z. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Being as young as you are and have the mindset of giving to your generation and beyond, who is Daniel Ferrer? Who is this kid?
Well, I'm a 13-year-old that since very young age, my parents taught me to love this great nation, to love liberty, to defend liberty and defend truth. And I want to add to that my parents come from Cuba, so they faced the real face of communism. They always taught me the importance of loving a country and respecting a country that gave them so much opportunities and gave them so much opportunities to other immigrants and also to the American people and to the American citizens. And so it's just very important to acknowledge that if we lose this country, we've lost everything. As Martin Luther King said, this is the promised land.
Wow. Dad, you have to be, you and your wife, very proud of the man that he's becoming, but the son that you have to want to have a foundation to help other children.
Yeah.
Daniel, Patriot Kids Foundation, how different is it from other organizations?
I think one of the biggest things that we have in difference from any other organizations that are doing great work, I can't say they're not. They're doing amazing work, is that it was born from the heart of a child. It was born from the heart of a kid who really loved this great nation, who wanted a difference because I was seeing what was happening in public schools. Because I used to go to public school. Not all my life I've been on the computer learning. A big part of my time on this earth has been in public schools, and I believe that what we were learning as children in schools was not correct, and most of all was not the correct history of America, and that's the most important thing of all. I want to teach children the correct history of America, the truth behind our founding history, so that they can know to love and respect this great nation.
This is a great nation, and that's why we have so many men and women crossing our borders to
Yes.
come to America so they can live the American dream. Daniel, as you travel the country or maybe see on TV or might have heard it on the radio or maybe on any, social media circuit, you see somebody burn the American flag. How does that impact you? How do you feel about that?
Well, that's actually why I created one of our biggest projects for this year, which is called Guardians of Honor. It's already working in Florida, and what we're doing is just teaching children to love and respect our American flag and what the American flag really means. And when I see that, you just can notice the how much information children are not getting about America. They believe that American flag represents slavery, represents racism, represents everything that has happened in this great nation. I won't say it hasn't happened, but I can't say that flag represents that. And I can't say this nation is all about that either, because
Right.
it's not. Every nation has tough times. Every nation has times where there are things that shouldn't be happening, but there are times where America has fixed things faster than any other country. America became the fourth country in 1865 to abolish slavery, the fourth country in the world to abolish slavery. And we were the first country to accept a black person into Congress, and when every other country would have taken years to do
Mhm.
that. And that one of the biggest things of all is that people don't get that history. Children don't get that history. And when they don't get it, they have to rule themselves by what they see in their schools and on TV. What do they get? That America has always been a racist country, and that America is a country based on slavery, and that we grew off of that. And it's completely false. We are a country that is complete from different from any other country because we have one thing that no other country has, and you won't find it in any other place. We were based off the values and the principles of the Bible and the Ten Commandments, and we were created that God is the center of our liberties, not part of the equation of our liberties, the center of our liberties, and that when we are born, God gives us our rights and our liberties, and He says, "No one can take this from you because I gave it to you," and there's no one higher than God.
Nobody.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. You know, when you are watching TV, if you're allowed to watch TV or if you just happen to have it on for a period of time, you want children to learn more about our founding fathers and the history of this world. And it seems as though they would rather put on TV and on shows and in schools more about homosexuality. They would
Yeah.
rather teach our kids. And and I'm so glad your parents are homeschooling you. And like I tell parents that they have a right to know what is being taught. I would rather see them being taught about the bicentennial year, which the year I graduated in 1976, or something about 1776 or Martin Luther King. But instead, they want to teach other things that does not help them or educate them in the future of their lives. And there's a lot of things that, of course, we learn in school that we won't ever use, especially when you go to college. You know, you
Yeah.
take these classes. It's like, why am I taking this? I'm not even going to use this in the world today. But God can take those things and still use it for His glory. What do you want the young adults, your age group, to understand about their founding fathers?
One of the biggest things that I want young Americans to learn about our founding fathers is that we should look at them not as old people in yellow history books and textbooks that are boring. They were actually not old people at all. Their age group was from 26 to 40, and the oldest of all was Benjamin Franklin, and that was it. But there was no one who passed 40 years of age. And that's something that is super important. When you look at it, young people in every world and every country has always started a movement and have always changed the things. And
Mhm,
that's something that we can do. If we can change the way our education is today, we can change everything. We can change and make sure that kids start to love America again, and that kids are inspired and become more patriotic day by day. And that's something that is super important that we have lost. And I believe that one of the biggest things that we've lost also is our education. In 1962, we lost, and the Supreme Court actually took out the Bibles and the Ten Commandments from our schools in 1962. And so it was just something that it tells you how our society allowed things like that to happen. And that happened because parents in that moment said, well, I think the school has a better decision about my children's education. I
mhm,
shouldn't get into that. I'm not a teacher. I'm not someone who studied for that. You don't have to be someone who studied to that for to know common sense and to understand what your children really need to learn.
mhm,
And I'll tell you something, when you look at our founding fathers were all educated at home with their family, with their mothers, on the Bibles, on the Ten Commandments, and that's why they came out the men who they are. And one of our biggest mottos in Patriot Kids Foundation is create the next generation of founding fathers. Create again those young men who and women who are there and who are really wanting to make a change for their country and for better. Not just because they want to change, anything that can happen that passes. They want to change something that is real. Our founding fathers in the Declaration of Independence didn't just write a document that said, hey, we want to start a war. No, it was a document that said we are going to separate from Great Britain because the King of England has completely taken away the laws of nature and nature's God.
wow,
And that is something that is super important. When you look at it, when our founding fathers wrote the Declaration of Independence, they based themselves off of the two the the commentaries of the laws from Blackstone, which was what we would think today as the highest person in law studies. The commentaries on the laws of Blackstone was actually something every law student had to learn by memory when our founding fathers. And if you wanted to pass law school, and if you
mhm,
wanted to become a lawyer, you had to know that book by memory. And he mentions in that book about the laws of nature and natural law, which are two things very different. And everyone thinks, well, laws of nature and natural law are the same thing. Nature, natural, same thing. Potato, potato. And it's not. And so when you look at it, what he's saying is that our founding fathers based off the Declaration of Independence as the beginning, where they mention the laws of nature and of nature's God, which is the same thing. And they say that what it is that it's the laws of nature is something that God created, and Genesis are the laws of nature created in Genesis when he created the world. And the natural law is something we prescribe, that we believe in. So if our founding fathers based it off of that, that means that it's something that was correct then, it's correct now, because it's still in the Bible. And it's still there, and it has not changed. The laws of nature are the same, and they said, look, King has completely disrespected the laws of nature and the Bible and everything God told us to be. And so that's why we're separating. We're not separating because we want taxation with representation. That was actually number 17 on the list. What they wanted was liberty, not just for them, for the children and for the posterity. And they wanted to make sure that in this country, it was recognized that God is a center of our liberties, of our equations, and that God is the one who teaches us how, and that tells us that government cannot take away our rights. Not because there's a constitution. The Constitution doesn't give us our right. A lot of Americans believe that. The Constitution only tells government, hey, you can do this, this, and this, but you can't do this. And that thing they can't do is take away our rights. And that's one of the biggest things of all that we have lost in our education, and that I hope that every American, not just young people, but every American learns and knows.
That is so important. Have you ever thought about going into politics?
Man,
At such a young age, maybe you'll be our president. I might not be around to see it. I pray that nobody's around to see it because we'll all be with Jesus. But you are so sharp. Those of you that are listening to Healing and Made Free, I'm talking with the founder of Patriot Kids Foundation, Daniel Ferrer, which I am not saying his last name right because say it for the audience, Daniel.
Daniel Ferrer.
You know I'm not saying that. But if you have young children that are listening to this podcast, I want you to be encouraged by Daniel. If Daniel can do it, you can do it. The devil will tell you, that you should not speak out, that you shouldn't have a mind of your own. But parents, I want you to encourage your children to sit down and listen to Daniel speak because I believe it'll encourage them, build their faith in God, and build them up to a place where they feel like, man, if he can do it, I can do it as well. Daniel, you're amazing. I want to ask you, what does 2025 look for you and Patriot Kids Foundation?
Well, this year has promised a lot. We are 4 months in, and it's just been a lot of good news, a lot of good projects. We have a lot of projects that are surging. I encourage everyone to go to our website. They can go to patriotkids.foundation. I'll repeat that, patriotkids.foundation. And we have all of our projects that are happening right now. Everything we're doing, events we're going to, events we're doing ourselves, that is happening right there. And I just encourage everyone to just keep posted because there's a lot of projects. I was talking about the one Guardians of Honor. It's about our American flag. We have another one, which is Virtues That Speak, which is teaching children morals and values that come from direct children literature, but not the one we see today that talks about the LGBTQ community and homosexuality. We're talking about the old things maybe you learned, that my parents learned, these things that are rich in morals and values and principles, and that are things that we need for our society, and that will also help create better people for our society. And we're doing that not just reading books, but we're doing it through puppets, actually. We're doing it through puppets, through music, as I'm saying, through joy, through activities that kids love and that they will learn to do, and that they will say, hey, I want to go. It's not something that their parents are going to, say, you got to go to this event. No, we want kids to say, I want to go to this event because it's fun, because I know there's going to be a lot of joy, a lot of music, a lot of activities, and that kids are just going to love it. We have another one that isn't posted yet on our website, which is called Patriot Time Machine, which we are going to be doing with the Apple Vision Pros, which are augmented reality, and we're gonna be taking kids back to when our founding fathers were signing the Declaration of Independence, so we can go through when they were signing, the silence that was in the room when they were signing that day, and yes, so they can see every person talked to them about who they are, what they were about, what they did, what importance they had, and also not just them, but important figures and moments in our founding history that aren't talked about in our school. For example, April 19th, we passed 250 years of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. And everyone knows about that, but doesn't know that where he actually put those, where he turned on those candles and was actually in a church, that he did from the top window of a church to allow everyone to know in Lexington and Concord that the British were coming. And no one knows that it was April 19th. No one celebrates that.
Mhm.
You have to wait until something like the White House goes out and publishes and say, hey, we've passed 250 years. And we also have to remember that something very important is coming up and that no one knows and that no one has actually realized. Next year, 2026, we're going to be 250 years of the Declaration of Independence.
Wow.
So we hope that we know the White House is going to be doing something very special. We hope that Patriot Kids Foundation, we're going to be able to pull off something amazing too. A day full of activities, events, fun, joy, so that kids can really feel patriotic again. That's one of our biggest things. And to teach them that America isn't what we see in our schools. America is that shining light on the hill that everyone wants to get to, and that we're only that way because of what our founding fathers did for us and what they instilled in our country's founding documents and our country's founding history.
Daniel, this was awesome. Before we go, I want you to give your website and your email address, if it's okay with your parents. Make sure you check with them on how they can reach you, those that are going to listen to this, how they can reach you if they want you to come speak or if they even want to find out more about your foundation.
Well, people can go to my website, which is patriotkids.foundation. I'll repeat that, patriotkids.foundation. My email is hello@patriotkids.foundation. I'll repeat that, hello@patriotkids.foundation. And they can also contact me over Instagram. They can see what else I'm doing too, which is Daniel_Ferrer, Ferrer 2011. And they can follow me there, see what we're doing, and all the events that we are doing with the foundation.
Are you on any other social media circuits like Facebook
Yes.
or TikTok?
Yes, I'm on TikTok as real Daniel Ferrer. It's my last name, Ferrer. I'm on YouTube too, which is Life, Liberty, and Kids. And I'm on Facebook, the same handle of my Instagram.
Parents, you have your children sitting down watching TV. Sit them down and have them listen to Daniel share how he started this awesome foundation and what the Lord is doing in his life. Daniel, I'm going to give you the last word. Speak to the children, the young adults, the millennials, Gen Zs out there that really would like to do what you're doing, but are afraid to.
It's very easy to ask something from your country while, not giving anything. And I would say President John F. K actually said this very easily, and do not ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And that is the duty of all of us as citizens. It's not just go out and vote. It's not just be there when, our country needs us the most in that second, and we go back home and we continue watching TV. It's be there 24/7, 365. I know there's work. I know there's school. I know there's studies, but there's also something that's called America that if we lose it, we have nothing else. So I encourage everyone to learn more about my foundation, to learn more about American history, learn more about what you can do for your country. And as one of our projects where we go around doing conferences with kids and activities with kids, it's called Saving America Starts With You. That's one of the most amazing things of all. Saving America starts with you.
Daniel, Kandel, thank you so much for being on Healing and Made Free with Janet Boynes.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Healing and Made Free with Janet Boynes. Acts 10:34 says, God is no respecter of persons. God doesn't play favorites, which means what he has done for Janet, what he has done for guests on this show, he will do for you too. If you are struggling with anything, do not hesitate to reach out to Janet Boynes Ministries. They will do their best to help you any way they can. Go to the website, janetboynesministries.com. Janet loves you, and most importantly, God loves you. Have a blessed day.